You're listening to the Awkward High Five podcast. You can follow along in your book. You'll know it's time to turn the page when you hear the chimes ring like this.
Check that shit out, man, the internet. Let's see if those fucks wrote something new about us or that stupid-ass flick. Any movie based on Jay and Silent Bob are gonna lick balls because they both, in fact, lick balls. Motherfucker. It's time we wrote something back. Type this shit down. All you motherfuckers are gonna pay. You are the ones who are the ball lickers. We're gonna fuck your mothers while you watch and cry like little whiny bitches. Once we get to Hollywood and find those Miramax fucks who's making the movie, we're gonna make them eat our shit, then shit out our shit, and then eat their shit that's made up of our shit that we made them eat. And then all you motherfucks are next.
That's I'm doing a 21 fireworks salute to the Thin White Duke.
I thought you were doing a cowbell drum roll.
That's the cowbell there.
So now with all these pics up and everything, now you can see how he looks like Mayo?
Are you talking about Bowie?
Yeah. Now you see it, right?
He looks like Mayo in the fact that he's like, okay, he looks like
yes, admit it.
Mayo doesn't have the cool different color eye thing going though.
If he did, though, it'd be twins deep.
Welcome to the Awkward High Five podcast. My name is Devin.
And I'm Rich.
You close enough to that mic there, buddy?
Yeah, it keeps going in and out.
All right, cool.
It's fine.
Yeah, Bowie's dead.
Yep.
I'll talk about it in a minute.
And everybody was such big fans of him.
Yeah, I know. That's what I want to talk about. But first, I wanted to say that I made a giant purchase. Well, yeah,
giant.
No, not giant. Well, giant in the fact that it's the biggest purchase I've made in a while. Right before we started the show, I was actually on this very same laptop, this very same computer, and bought myself a ticket to Iceland.
The country?
The country Iceland.
Okay. Now you got to totally elaborate on this.
Well, here's the thing.
You just said, fuck it, Iceland?
I've been seeing this girl.
Bjork?
Her name's Bjork. Yeah, she runs with a crew called the Sugar Cubes. No, friends of ours are going, and they told me about it. And you know, like I've traveled overseas. I've been to London and stuff. And traveling is something I want to do. And it fits in. I told you before the show that I had made this big purchase, but I was going to tell you on the show what it was. And you asked me, the first thing you asked me is if it fits in with minimalism. And it does fit in with minimalism because the whole thing of minimalism is experiences, not possessions.
Right.
So this is an experience, albeit an expensive experience, but an experience nonetheless.
Is it a cruise or just a trip?
No, it's a trip. We're going to go in June. We're going to be there for a week and, whatever, hang out with some volcanoes or some shit.
Yeah, do some Iceland
But,
stuff.
you know, like the thing is I want to, I've never been to like Italy or Spain, and that's definitely on my list of things to do, and I plan on doing more traveling. I haven't done any serious traveling besides in the United States in a few years, but the thing with London, like when I was in London, was that was like London's like it's like New York. Yeah, right. You know, it's a little bit older, and it's cool.
It's like 1800s New York,
and it's cool to be overseas and in England, and people talk a little bit different and all that stuff. But you know, it's like New York,
right?
You know?
That's how I felt about Amsterdam,
right?
It was like 1800s New
York, right? And
I want some Mediterranean.
And Paris
shit.
is the same, and all that stuff. The main thing that I've always wanted to do is like kind of a culture shock might be too extreme, but I always want to travel to the places that aren't like New York.
Yeah, of course.
You know, so Iceland's always been on my list. Japan's a big one that I want to get to. Places where
Japan's like a pretty intense New York.
Right.
It's like New York times a million.
But that, you know, but the thing is no one speaks English there.
Right,
you know what I mean? It's like total.
It'll be a struggle.
Right. Like everything's crazy. They got panties and vending machines or whatever the fuck goes on there. So, so this opportunity came up and I jumped on it. So, I'll be in Iceland in June. I'm looking forward to it.
It's supposed to be like beautiful there.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
And
I
it's
mean,
not ice, like right? Like Greenland is ice and Iceland is green.
Yes, any third grader knows that.
Yeah.
The Vikings, I believe it was, named Greenland and Iceland to throw off invaders.
Ooh.
So they, so that people wouldn't go to Iceland, even though it was really nice because they thought it was made of ice, and vice versa.
Right.
So yeah, I'll be there.
Good one, Leif Erikson. That's pretty smart.
Thanks. And well, I'm sure
I'm not calling you Leif Erikson.
I'm sure that's 100% not true. And
I'll take it.
And I'm sure I'll get a bunch of emails after this,
Yeah.
just like I did with all the Making the Murderers and the Twilight Zones and
all the Vikings are gonna come out of the woodwork.
All the other things that you said.
All the Vikings that listen to Bowie.
Why you hate on Bowie?
I don't hate on Bowie. I'm hating on the fact that everyone's a Bowie fan now.
Okay, well, let me first say that I am a Bowie fan. One of the cool things about getting older, especially if you appreciate the arts like music and art, like or anything, stand-up comedy is another one, that you get to a certain age where you actually go back. You'll start to go back and experience things that you might have dismissed at a younger age.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So, like, the thing with Bowie is when we saw Bowie, we saw Bowie in 1995 when he was on tour at Nine Inch Nails. Mm-hmm. We were 15-year-old idiot kids. If 15, we might. It
was still awesome, though.
Yeah, no, it was great. Yeah. But one of my regrets now that I'm older and like into like Bowie is that I went to that show more for Nine Inch Nails. Right. It was cool. Like, it was like, oh, we're going to see David Bowie. But if I'm being honest, I went to that show for Nine Inch Nails, and we were also young and experimenting with things, so our minds might have not have been in the right place.
Yeah, totally. That was more on the ride up. I think we took him too early.
Well, but it was the type of thing that would last long enough for a show. And to be honest with you, the kind of thing that we were doing at that time was very placed very well with the Nine Inch Nails / David Bowie show.
Yeah. Cool.
But for that though, and not really knowing his catalog that well and all that stuff, I don't really remember it that well. If I could go, that's one of the things in my life that I wish I could go back to again and see it in my older eyes. Because there's a lot of people, like, even looking at Facebook and everything after Bowie died, there's a lot of people saying like, oh, I never got to see him. He stopped touring years ago, and stuff like that. And so that made me feel kind of like, well, that's cool. At least I got to see the dude.
Yeah, and he was the headliner on that show, but I don't remember him doing that many songs.
No, he did.
He did?
Yeah, he did. He definitely did. What they did was they were co-headliners. Nine Inch Nails started, and then remember
they did Reptile together.
Yeah. Bowie came out. They did Reptile and Hurt, I believe, together, and they did like a Bowie song too. And then as they were doing it together, the Bowie set kind of came around.
Right.
You know what I mean? That way, and then Nine Inch Nails kind of disappeared, and then Bowie was on. There was never a stop in that show. It was very cool the way that they did it. But as children, we were just like, didn't really know, unless you played Changes or Man Who Sold the World or something like that, we didn't know all of his catalog, and I just wish I was there.
He did do Under Pressure. They did it together, I remember.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he did that.
That's like the only thing I remember.
But yeah, it's a bummer, man. Like, it really, I really do appreciate David Bowie. And that's what I'm saying. As I got older, I went back. Because as growing up the way we did, like, I guess you could call it punk rockers, we were very inclined to dismiss, at least I was, to dismiss any sort of what would be considered classic rock. You know what I mean? So I know I was. So I right off the bat was like, like the Doors. I don't give a fuck about the Doors. I don't give a fuck about Led Zeppelin. Like, that's not my music. To me, that was already lame music.
Yeah, I was kind of into Zeppelin.
Yeah, right. Well, you're a drummer, that's why.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, when I was younger, Bowie kind of fell into that same thing where, like, I kind of just dismissed him. I'm like, oh, this guy's already on the radio. He's already so popular, so he can't be good. That's the way I thought as a dumb child. And then as you get older in your 20s and your 30s, and I've done this a lot in the decades past, is you go back and you start listening to some of these people, and then you're like, oh shit, there is a reason why this guy was so popular, because he's fucking amazing. And Bowie was one of those dudes for me. And just the one thing that I hate on so much is that
I can't say this about Bowie because of his, the artistic edge that he brought to his music. But every time someone dies, they're always the single person that changed the face.
Right.
How many people changed the face?
Right.
How many times did the face change? You know what I mean?
No, totally.
It's like once you die, you're the person that changed the face of
Right.
rock and roll,
Right. And I
hate that.
No, and you're totally right. And that is people projecting themselves onto the situation, which is why it has gotten to the point now where I have a very hard time going on any social media site the day that anybody I care about whatsoever dies.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, Scott Weiland changed the face.
Right, exactly. Now,
a month before that, Dusty Rhodes changed the face of wrestling.
Well, he did bring in Sapphire around. That was pretty sweet Sapphire.
Brought down the culture barrier.
He was the Jackie Robinson. Well, Sapphire was the Jackie Robinson of wrestling.
Dusty Rhodes was like besides, what's his name? Akeem? He was like the first wigger of wrestling. Remember Akeem?
Yeah, the African Dream.
Yeah, he was definitely he was full wigger. Or he just really thought he was black.
I'd like to just commend you for bringing up the word wigger, which
I
haven't heard since
back.
7th grade. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Everybody all of a sudden, and I've been on Facebook for the past
wigger.
I've been on Facebook for the past day and a half, just like almost out of because it's so annoying that I wanted to be annoyed by it, and in literally, there's some people out there that just wrote, that sucks. Rest in peace, David Bowie. Thanks for all you've given me, and that's great. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of people out there that attach themselves to it by saying like I just told this story. Now I just told that story about us seeing David Bowie because I have a podcast and we're talking about it. I didn't put that on Facebook,
right?
But I saw people do that where they put up flyers and they're like, I saw Bowie here and I saw Bowie there, and it's it's not about you. Or the one thing that killed me the most, and I saw a bunch of it because I have tons of musician friends on Facebook for being a musician for so long or whatever, and a lot of people put up their cover versions. They picked up their acoustic guitar and started playing fucking Major Tom or something like that. And look, I'm not busting on anybody for doing what they love to do, but is your cover song of a Bowie song what you should put up on the internet the day that the guy dies?
They're gonna play it at his funeral.
Yeah, again, not about you,
right?
And
it's terrible.
And then there's always the people, and we've talked about this before, there's always the people that want to be the newsbreakers,
oh, yeah, but how could you? Unless you were, by his bedside and fucking took a picture of his last breath.
Right, right. But what I'm saying is, yes, you're totally correct. But then why do everybody put up links to the articles? Going on Facebook the day that somebody, a famous person dies, is if, let's say we're in the 90s and the internet wasn't around anymore, and or anymore, I'm sorry, at all, it hasn't happened yet, or the late 80s or whatever it may be, and somebody died. Let's say when Kurt Cobain killed himself.
Such a phenomenon to me. I bring it up all the time, but continue.
So this is
not even a famous person. Any person.
All right. So let's say on 1994 when Kurt Cobain killed himself, it would be like me walking down the street and then people I went to high school with and ex-coworkers were just driving by throwing newspapers at my face with a story on it every 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Bah, 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 bah. Have you heard about this yet? Have you heard about this yet? I know about this, and that is where you bring yourself into it, and that is what all of social media is everybody just stroking their own cocks, whether they want to admit it or not.
Right.
And I'm sure I've never done it with celebrity deaths because I never, besides making the old dirty bastard joke, which I make sometimes,
yeah.
I never jump on that bandwagon. And I actually did put a little thing up, but it was more of a joke. It was actually a joke busting on religion, but it had to do with Bowie the day he died, and I truly was saddened by it. And I'm sure there is a ton of people out there that are saddened by it. He was an amazing artist who touched a million different people, but the way that people just make it about their fucking selves it's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, that's not even about celebrities. Say, someone's friend died and they put on Facebook, "Rest in peace, I miss you." All right. It's a nice sentiment. You think it's sweet. But if you take away Facebook, what you're doing is you're writing a letter to all your friends or acquaintances or would-be friends, putting it in the mail that's saying, "Rest in peace, Joe," or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
All you're doing is writing a letter to your friends.
Right. There's no...
How the hell... If you really want to say rest in peace, say a prayer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't fucking write a letter to ex-coworkers and acquaintances saying rest in peace. You know, it makes no sense at all.
Well, that's because there is
they want other people to see that they're in grief.
That is why social media is so popular, is because everybody, whether they admit it or not, wants that little bit of celebrity that they get from it.
Yeah,
you know,
they want to feel important.
Yeah, they you have 1,000 Facebook friends or 500 Facebook friends or 2,000 whatever it may be Facebook friends, and then you know that if you put this out, at the very least, people are gonna look at it, you know, and know that, and that's why people lie so much on Facebook. You know, the main thing, and I'm sure I've said it before on this podcast, is the more people say that their life is great on Facebook, the more I know that it isn't. It's almost like an opposite effect and stuff. And it's just more and more as the internet and because honestly, the internet, like, even though it's been around for so long now and it seems like such a big part of our lives, I think we're still in like the infancy stages of this thing. You know, like in 20 years from now, it's going to be a completely different kind of thing going on. And the same thing with social media. I mean, in the long term of things, it's fairly new. And it seems like every time a celebrity dies, it gets worse and worse. Now, granted, Bowie's a giant one. You know,
but people see other people doing that, and they want to be the one to like break the news.
They want to
themselves or whatever,
or they want to prove to everybody else that they're the biggest Bowie fan. You know, like number one, who cares? You know, that's like you should never be a fan of any sort of art to show other people that you're a fan of that art. You're a fan of that art because it helps you in some way. It makes you feel good in some way. Yeah. You know?
Not to be like, I was there before you were there, and you, and you, and you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Exactly. Which the age group of people that I'm friends with on Facebook couldn't be true anyway, because none of those motherfuckers were alive when Bowie put out Honky Dory or any of his early stuff. So whatever. I'm not saying that people shouldn't feel bad and mourn the death of such an amazing dude, you know, but the whole social media aspect of it really does bring out the way people it's indicative of life. People are just about them fucking selves and all the time. And even if they try to hide it or mask it in one way or another. And I'm not excluding myself from that. I'm not trying to act like I'm better than it. I think it might be a human nature thing that none of us can escape. But it's crazy how much people are into it, you know?
Yeah.
So
I knew it was going to happen. You know, I just didn't know it was going to go on for that long. Like, what had happened? Like 2 days ago, right?
Well, it happened early Monday morning. So basically what happened with me was I got this fucking thing where I wake up it doesn't matter when I go to bed. I wake up at like 4 a.m. and I can't sleep from 4 to 6 o'clock in the morning. And it happens to me almost every night. If I could go to bed at 8 o'clock, I go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up at 4, and no matter how much I lay there, or I try to read a book, or I might throw on Netflix or something like that,
or can't go back
or
to
smoke
sleep
some weed or
6?
something, I just never really go back to sleep until 5:36. There's this weird time fucking clock thing I have going on.
Weird.
And that happened that night, and I woke up and I grabbed my iPad and I checked Facebook, and I saw one person had put up the news article that Bowie died. And when I saw it, it kind of gave me that like, oh fuck, like that shock. But then I realized that I was looking at Facebook, and I realized the onslaught that was coming in. And I literally said to him, I literally shut down my fucking iPad, and I said, I'm going to deal with this in the morning. And I fucking just laid down, prayed to whoever may be out there that was a false fucking article, and went to sleep. And then lo and behold, I woke up in the morning. Now, my mornings are like 11 o'clock at noon because, you know, but I woke up, you know, the next day, and then it was all over.
Yeah.
Everyone's throwing up the picture of him with his changing face and all his hairstyles.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's throwing up pictures
of him in his deathbed.
Was there pictures of that?
Yeah, but he did that on purpose. He did like a final poem or some shit when he was in his deathbed.
I don't know if that's true.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, well, did you see it on Facebook?
Yeah, I didn't read it though.
But I'll tell you what, man.
I was more interested in the mayor from Ghostbusters.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But Bowie, the one
my sad day.
The one last thing I want to say about Bowie is that love him or hate him or indifferent about him or whatever you may feel, because that's another thing. I saw people put that up too, which was kind of infuriating. Where like people are like, I don't get why the fuck everyone's so upset about this Bowie dude. His song sucked. And it's like, all right, man, look.
Yeah, relax.
You might think that, and you're entitled to your opinion. Today might not be the day to fucking put that up. That's almost as bad as everyone being like, you know what I mean? Like, I love fucking, you know, all this shit. But I'm going to say from an artist point of view, that motherfucker did it correctly. He was a private guy his whole life. You know, he always let his music and his art and all that stuff and his acting and all the stuff that he did always be what represented to him all the way down to the end. You know, like he literally put out this last album already knowing that he already got his death sentence. Nobody knew that besides his very close friends and family, that he was on his way out. He didn't let it be known. He put out more shit in the last year, you know, knowing that he was on his way out. And then didn't say anybody, and then just disappeared.
What kind of cancer was it? Lung cancer?
I believe it was liver cancer.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And that's like to me as respecting him as an artist. That's a great way to go because
well, that's what he was.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're just letting your art talk for you till the very, very end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, any 69, 70-year-old dude who has cancer, who's been in the public eye for 40 years, might be inclined to be like, you know, like, oh, I got cancer, or let his representatives put it out there and let everybody know so he could do his victory lap, you know, and all that stuff. But he didn't do that because he was able to separate his personal life and his art so much that's probably one of his mistakes. Nobody, you know, besides the fact that he changed all the time and all that stuff, which was another, I could talk about it forever because I love the guy, but that, I think that was a very cool way to just to handle the whole situation.
Yeah.
Put out some stuff, you know, and I haven't listened to the last, because honestly, I'm going to say the last 3 Bowie albums I wasn't that into. There's been a song or two. I've listened to all of them. There's been a song or two, but you know, it's just like any artist who gets older, you know, the stuff towards the end isn't going to be.
Yeah, he's not surprised.
Yeah, whatever. But now, you know what? I'm really going to go back and give this last album like a really good listen, you know? It's the same thing that like Warren Zevon did. I don't know if you're a Warren Zevon fan, but that's the same thing. But he made it more public that he was basically writing his swan song. But like he got diagnosed with cancer, and he wrote an album about dealing with cancer and dying, and then put it out, and then died. And if you listen to that album, again, whether you're a huge Warren Zevon fan or not, you hear a man dealing with his own demise and dealing with that creatively, which is, to me, is an important thing to do. You know what I mean? Like I don't know where I'm going to be, when I'm going to die, how old I'm going to be, what capacity I'm still going to be creating things. But I hope that maybe I'll have that outlet someplace where I could.
If you get a warning about when you're going to die?
Yeah, like, you know, I can handle it creatively.
But that's a hard thing to get. Unless you have cancer, how else would you know you're going to die?
Well, but I mean, cancer's, you know, a huge chance, you know? So I'm just saying, like, I think
it's a huge chance.
it's a big possibility. Cancer, it should be cancer. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get too somber about it, but I really respect the way that guy did his thing. And
he was an artist.
Yeah, he was an artist, and just as John, the only other time that somebody died that it was this big, that I can remember was Michael Jackson. You know, I don't think, you know, and so that proves how big of a dude you are and how many people you've touched and stuff. Regardless of everyone's ego getting involved and all that bullshit, if you just take the pure numbers of people like freaking out that Bowie's not around, you know.
Yeah.
You know. So, I don't know.
Well, that's the whole thing that I think about when all these Bowie fans pop out of the woodwork. It's like, when was the last time he was significant to you? Because that should be the important thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if someone who posts, you know, rest in peace, David Bowie. I remember being a kid and my parents playing his albums, and I would, you know, sit on the kitchen floor in my undies and hear David Bowie. That is an honest, good post to me.
Right.
You know?
And some people did do that.
That's cool.
Right.
You know? But, you know, whatever. Everything else we just said, you know, just sucks.
Yeah, it's to act like you were just listening to Bowie yesterday.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And how could it? Yeah, and
like your 5-disc changer is all Bowie.
Right, exactly. And people just do that shit. It was like, it's the same thing when fucking, like, I just experienced it this year with and not to even act like this is on the same level, but I just experienced it this year with the Mets going to the World Series. All of a sudden, everybody was fucking Mets fans.
Yeah.
I've been a suffering Mets fan fan my whole fucking life. I could tell you that 75% of the people that were Mets fans last fucking October aren't fucking Mets fans, you know? But as an actual Mets fan, I had to, like, instead of getting enraged by it, I kind of had to be like, okay, these guys are all going to be gone come fucking March. Just let them act like they're actually Mets fans, and then once the team sucks again next year, they'll go away, you know? And I guess it's kind of the same thing as this. It's like, should I actually really care if somebody's actually a Bowie fan or not? Like, that's their own fucking thing.
Right, yeah, no, we shouldn't care.
But when people are throwing it in your face all the time, you know, like on Facebook, and yeah, it's been 2 days and it's still going on, you know? And then another thing that people do is they try to do like the I'm more underground. So like what a lot of people were doing, not a lot of people, but some people were doing, whereas they were putting up, like I saw somebody put up a thing that said like, this was the only Bowie thing I could watch today. And they put the Flight of the Conchords the Bowie song bit that they did on the Flight of Conchords show. And now it's even like more of a little like thing being like, not only into Bowie, but I'm also into this comedy thing that you guys might not know about, which everybody knows about the fucking Flight of the Conchords.
I thought that was huge.
It's giant. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? But exactly. Nobody doesn't know who the Flight of the Conchords is. But that's just another thing where it's like, here's my preference. So, you know, and it's like, that was them kind of, yeah, I mean, they were paying homage to Bowie, but they're also kind of poking fun at Bowie.
Oh, he wasn't actually in it?
No, yeah. It was just, you know, but it was like, you know, or a lot of people put up the Bowie on Extras, that Ricky Gervais show where he sings a song and tell about how Ricky Gervais is fat and a loser or whatever, which was a funny ass bit, you know, but it's like, this is what I'll be watching, you know, and it's like,
I seen something really funny. It was a dude or a chick, I don't know who, but their Facebook profile is actually David Bowie's bulge from the movie Labyrinth. And
yes, that's a legendary bulge.
And the person talks as if he's the bulge, like, you know, going amongst his business, but being David Bowie's bulge in Labyrinth, you know, like, you know, did you see me today? You know,
right?
Like, look into the bulge, I'll tell you your future. Fucking funny as hell.
Well, anyway, that's it's hard to talk about the Facebook thing because it's there's so many different fucking levels to it. I literally could talk about.
It's never gonna stop.
Right, and you know what? And I'm not even complaining about it like it should. You know, this isn't on my list of things that don't need to come into. I'm not hating right now, but it's at the very least just an interesting thing when you not only do you have to deal with your own like. Emotions might be a strong fucking word because it's not like I was on my knees going why you know, but you have to deal with your own thing of like fuck this sucks, and then you also have to deal with 700 other people's things of you know
and when people are like, oh, David Bowie, what a great guy, it's like, you fucking knew Dave?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you know he didn't go home and fucking slaughter kittens? You know, like what if he was an asshole? I didn't know. You know?
Yeah. I mean,
amazing.
You know, he wasn't. Like, there's enough information out there that
right,
actually
but
was.
you know, but people act like they're on a first name basis with him.
Right, totally.
Yeah,
no, I get it.
They were cool with Dave.
But yeah, you had a celebrity death that rocked your world.
Yeah, Lenny baby. And there was only one news post about it. I'm like, all this about Bowie, one about Lenny baby.
It is always a bad, if you're a mid-level or lower-level celebrity, it is always a very bad move to die the same day that a giant celebrity dies, because you get swept under that. Like, who was it? Fuck. I'm going to try to look it up.
Well, Rowdy Roddy totally outshined Dusty Rhodes.
They died on the same day?
Not the same day.
No, but that's
the same month.
No, that's what I'm talking about. To die on the actual same day as another celebrity.
Oh, that'd be a good thing to check out.
Because I know
we got to make a top 10 for that one, baby.
Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting.
I don't even know if there is 10. That's tough.
Hang on for a second. I'm looking this up. I know
it happened this year.
I'm sorry. Say what?
It happened this year.
No, it was when Michael Jackson died. Oh yeah, Farrah Fawcett died on the same day as Michael Jackson,
and I think Patrick Swayze, right?
No, that wasn't.
I remember
the same
they
day.
all died together.
Yeah, I think they all died in the same time. But Farrah Fawcett actually died on the same day as Michael Jackson.
Really?
And it's like, and Farrah Fawcett was a decent celebrity, you know, especially if you're from that time period watching TV and all that, you know, back then. And and she didn't get shit, you know. It was because MJ was so giant.
Yeah,
you know.
But I remember seeing some things on Farrah.
Yeah,
because I think I watched them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
I was hoping for a nude, probably.
I'm sure they were there, but if you ask anybody who would know, I don't even know what day it was, but if you ask, like,
it was like June 23rd.
Okay.
Something like that.
What-
25th.
My favorite thing that happened when MJ died was we were in a bar that night.
Yeah, McDonald's.
You were there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I remember.
And so the word got out at the bar, and everybody started like kind of like freaking out or whatever. And then, you know, the Facebook thing hit, and then everyone was talking about it, and then the whole bar kind of got like, you know, like into the whole thing, which was a very cool experience to find that out while you're out with a whole bunch of people, even people you don't know, and then have like this communal experience was pretty interesting. But my favorite thing that happened was immediately people just started running to the jukebox and putting on any MJ song that they could find.
Yeah.
And so we're listening to all the hits and everything, and then and then you just hear boom, 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 and you're like, all right, sweet, here it comes, and you hear your butt is wide at -2. Someone went and put Weird Al's Fat on instead of fucking Bad. I fucking died laughing.
That's a great album. I think we've talked about it before. That's a fucking classic.
Oh, Weird Al's even worse?
Yeah.
Greatest.
You can play that from front to back.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it was funny in the middle of a Michael Jackson tribute, literally like 20 minutes after the guy died, someone threw on Weird Al in the middle of it. It was fucking great.
So that person knows how to appreciate a good death. You know?
Yeah, right.
Like, you know, celebrate the good humored stuff about it.
Right.
You know? Not cry over fucking, you know, how great Off the Wall was.
Right.
Because they had that album before anyone else did.
And it's weird. It is weird when a celebrity dies because and I was thinking about this yesterday too, is like I said, the last, like, I guess 3 Bowie albums, they didn't light my world on fire or anything like that. You know, I appreciated that he was still putting out art and everything. So what made me feel so kind of empty when I found out that he died? It's I don't know him personally, so it wasn't a personal loss. If his creativity and his output that way stopped, it's not really, doesn't affect me that much. It's not like, you know, it wouldn't be like, let's say like Propagandy's tour bus fell off a cliff or something, knock on wood, you know, somebody who I'm like so fucking in love with and can't wait for their next thing, you know, or something like that. So like so there wasn't that level of loss with it, but still I felt that like kind of, man, that sucks. It just kind of felt like a kindred spirit is now gone. I guess.
Trying to think of what actor or musician would have to die for me to get upset like that.
Well, I mean, do you remember how upset we were when Kurt killed himself when we were kids?
Yeah, well, that we were kids and we were like in the middle of learning all his music, and we were, you know,
and it was in his prime too.
Yeah,
which
you know,
is,
there could have been so many more albums,
right?
You know, and there was like a lot lost there. You know, if Kurt was 70 and died of cancer.
Right, that's what I mean. So right, and so let's say he made it to 70, put out a couple okay albums that you maybe weren't that into, you know, in the past decade or something like that, and you obviously don't know him as a person, but you still would have that thing where like, shit, like, you know, and it's a weird thing that you go through when it comes to, and I guess that again just speaks to the amount of art. You know, because it's the art is what's transcendent. You know, it's like once you're at a certain point as an artist, you almost don't even fucking matter. Right. You know, so I guess again that just speaks to his work. You know, being that powerful. That
because as far as his life, you know, what could he have had 10 more years tops if he was healthy?
Right. Another thing. Everyone says that fucking the lifespan is like, what's the lifespan of a human being? It's supposed to be like 90 years or something? 86?
Really? Yeah. I thought it was like 80 or 82.
Okay, but let's say even...
I could be wrong. Maybe it went up.
Well, I don't know, but I hear that all the time. But it seems like most people die at 70.
That's what I thought. Well, shit, it seems like people die younger than... old all the time.
No, right, of course, and that's going to happen. But I'm talking about even like kind of like natural causes or stuff. Like, you know, it doesn't seem like most people are making
like 78, 79.
Even that seems like crazy. Like Donald Trump is 69 years old, right? The dude's running for president, you know, and it's like Bowie just died at 69 years old, and no one's. I mean, people are shocked, and I even heard people say like, "Oh, that's too young," and I agree that it's too young. But at the same
not that too
right
young.
At the same time, you wouldn't not shocked the way you would be if he died in his 40s. You know, so at one part we have this guy who's running for president who like wants to be the leader of the free world for at least 4 more years. Who's the same age as another guy who just called it quits. Yeah, you know, and it's weird, but
that's also cancer. You know,
no, I get it. I get the cancer thing
because even having cancer, living till 70 is pretty damn good. But that could also be the whole British thing. You know?
Right. Well, I guess.
It's like you live to be 100 if you're British, healthy. So if you have like AIDS or cancer, you'll make it to like 70 or 80.
Wait, so you're saying that British people live longer than American people?
Yeah.
Do you have any facts to base this up? Or am I going to get a whole ton of emails after this episode?
You're
going to
get a whole ton of emails.
How wrong you
but
are.
I mean, shit, look at, Keith Richards and Lou Reed, and they're survivors.
Lou Reed is from New York.
Is he?
Yeah,
I thought
he's
he
an
was British.
American. No.
Oh.
Are you kidding me?
Oh.
Nah, Lou Reed is from fucking New York. But Lou Reed died at 70 years old.
Yeah.
He was
That's-
70
that's
fucking years
pretty
old.
good for, his life.
I would say so for a heroin addict and,
Yeah.
and somebody who grew up in Manhattan and using intravenous drugs and all the shit, all the gay sex and all the shit that he did.
That's
yeah,
a survivor.
Yeah, he's a fucking survivor. I'll give him that. And you know what? And when Lou died at 70 a few years ago, everybody was kind of upset about it. I was upset about it, but nobody was shocked. Like nobody was like. Like everybody was like, "Sweet, we had Lou Reed for 70 years," you know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how much more are you trying to suck out of Bowie?
I think though the way that Bowie did go out kind of threw people for a loop because he just put out this album, he just had this play open, like all this stuff came out, so everyone was thinking like Bowie's on his way back. Like people were even talking a few days ago, up until the moment where they said he was dead. People were talking about is he finally going back on tour? People are getting excited. In fact, like holy shit, he's popping back up, you know. And then all of a sudden, so like maybe that has to do with it.
That's a pretty cool thing to do.
Where like Lou Reed hadn't do much the last few years of his life. He did that weird thing with Metallica or whatever. And then,
did he?
Yeah, that Lou Reed Metallica album. You didn't hear that?
No.
It's fucking nuts.
Oh my god.
And
That's
look,
fucking weird.
I love Lou Reed. I don't so much love Metallica, but I love Lou Reed and. It was kind of unlistenable. I'm just gonna say.
Well, what he sings over Metallica's ripping music?
Kinda.
That's
yeah,
weird.
It's kind of a weird thing. But he said before he died, his wife said that was his favorite thing that he's ever done.
What?
Which is also it just speaks to the weirdness of Lou Reed. Or
Yeah.
whatever. But speaking of Lou Reed, I mean Transformer, right? One of the greatest albums ever made. Some of the best songs that Lou Reed ever wrote was produced by David Bowie.
Was it?
Yeah, he took a lot of those songs that were kind of raw and more in the vein of the Velvet Underground. Like even the song "Satellite of Love," which is one of my favorite Lou Reed songs. There was earlier versions of that song, which was kind of more of like an open rock song, didn't have as much melody. It was a little bit faster and a little bit looser and stuff like that. And then if you listen to that song "Satellite of Love," I mean, that could be a David Bowie song. You could literally.
Oh, he changed it that much.
Yeah, you could take Lou out of that and have Bowie sing it, and you would believe that was a Bowie song, you know. And so, like, one of the reasons that arguably Lou Reed's biggest album of all time was because Bowie and Bowie came in. And out of just a straight up love for that scene, he loved Andy Warhol. He loved the Velvet Underground. He came to New York, fell in love with New York, fell in love with these guys. Put himself in that scene and really helped it out. You know, like that's the type of guy he was. And another thing, which was weird that I didn't think of is when I heard Bowie died, I just thought, I don't know why, but I just put him in London, you know? I just was like, all right.
What, that's where he died?
That's where he died. That's where he was living. That's where he died. But that's not true. He died in Manhattan.
Did he?
Yeah, he was living in and died in Manhattan, which makes it even weirder because for all intents and purposes, right up the street, you know? So like this living legend is just up the street and nobody know. I mean, and that's Manhattan. Like you never know who's crawling around and shit like that, but it's just weird. Like, you know, like the dude was there the whole time.
What, he was sitting in St. Vincent's Hospital or something?
I
Or
think
he died at home.
I think he died at home, as far as I know.
It makes more sense when you have cancer. I think you die at home.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I don't know all of that. And you know what? I didn't even really read a lot of those articles and stuff like that because I had the information that I needed to know. You know?
Was he? Oh, he was. You know, he died peacefully at home. You know, what was I going to say?
Yeah, right. So,
You know?
but no Ghostbusters mayor though.
No one gives a shit about him.
Well, I give a shit about him.
I'm just gonna start posting mad on Facebook that I like Ghostbusters before anybody else.
That should be your bit. So just start posting on Facebook as soon as we're done with this episode about how he touched your life and how your high school band fucking covered. He's not an artist. I don't know how that makes any sense. So,
what did we cover?
No, I was just saying like how, you know, like, or your high school play group did his scenes from Ghostbusters back in the day and he touched you so much.
Yeah. Every time I watch Ghostbusters, I just wait for his scenes because he's the magic.
I love in Ghostbusters how both times he's not the bad guy. Like, they send the Ghostbusters away both times, right? Doesn't that happen in both movies?
What do you mean they send them away? To a psych ward?
Well, the second one they go to psych ward. The first one they go to jail, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but both times it's after they visit the mayor's office.
Yeah, but it's never
the mayor. It's his slimy fucking coworker guy or whatever.
Well, it's that slimy dude that's always a slimy dude in part 2. You know, Zeus's manager in No Holds Barred.
Yeah.
You jack off, Zeus. But
isn't it the same guy from the first one?
No, I think in part 1 it's when Walter Peck comes to shut down the containment grid, and he shuts down the containment grid, and all the ghosts go free, and then they're standing outside. It's like, and he's just points at fucking Egon. He's like, he did it, and they get arrested.
Oh, is that what it? Maybe I'm getting the two confused.
Yeah, they just get arrested by cops.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that they do that in movies a lot, where they have the authority figure never be the decision maker, so that way the authority figure could come back and be
And
like,
do a good thing.
and be like, you let them out of jail and you're fired.
Yeah.
And they always have to fire the guy underneath him who made the decision.
Well, in the first one, it's Walter Peck. He doesn't get fired. He just like get him out of my office.
Right.
You're gonna miss him and stuff. And in part 2, I think he fires the slime ball.
Yeah, right. Manager. Man, I can picture that guy, but I don't know who he is. I keep wanting to say Richard Kind, but I know he looks like Richard Kind, but he's not Richard.
The guy
Kind.
that used to host Family Feud?
No, Rich. You know,
he is in Ghostbusters.
Is he really?
Yeah. He plays a cop. Oh no, I'm thinking of Overboard. Never mind. He's in Overboard.
Okay, Ghostbusters and Overboard, huh?
Yeah, 86. It was a good movie. It was a good year for movie.
I remember when Goldie Hawn was getting harassed by ghosts all over the place.
Yeah, Goldie Hawn is so much hotter than what's her daughter's name? Kate Hudson.
Kate Hudson.
A million times.
Now? Like right now?
No.
Oh.
No. If you put them at their same in their 20s, you know, if you compare Overboard to I don't know, what the fuck did Kate Hudson ever do? Almost Famous. You know.
I mean, Kate Hudson's pretty hot and Almost Famous. You can't say that Kate Hudson isn't an attractive human being.
No, I didn't say that.
Goldie Hawn might have been hotter, and I think I would tend to agree with you on that.
Yeah, Goldie all the way.
But I wouldn't turn either of them away. As
no,
they say.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. I
mean, you got to get hot you have to be hot to wrangle yourself some Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
to get some Kurt Russell in your life.
Giving Goldie his love muscle.
Another thing, I don't want to bring up Facebook, but another thing, have you bought into this Powerball thing? Have you purchased?
Oh, what that? Oh, did I buy a ticket?
Yeah.
No.
Right. And I did.
Uh-huh.
And I admit that there's no reason to. I'm not positive about it, but for some reason I fell into the hype. And I purchased Powerball tickets.
I thought you were going to say something about that really bad mathematical statement that somebody posted.
Well, that was really bad. Yeah, I wasn't even going to bring that up. What I was going to bring up is the fact that companies do this thing where they buy a Powerball ticket and then they put the picture on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and they say, if you like and share this, if we win, we'll share the winnings with everybody who liked and shared this or whatever.
Why does that? What does that have to do with anything? Why does liking and sharing? How does that increase the odds?
Because it's a marketing technique for companies.
Right.
So basically, what happens is all these people, they always do the excuse of you never know, and then they like it and they share it, you know, and then it's genius from a marketing point of view for these companies because they're getting their name out. The more people like and share it, the more people see it and everything like that. They're never going to win the fucking Powerball, and even if they did win the Powerball, there's no legal statement that's saying that they had to give this money out to people, you know. But all day long, in the midst of the Bowie memorials, I see all these people saying, you never know, and sharing like different like steakhouses pictures of it, radio stations fucking pictures of it and all this shit.
Yeah, I did see something like that. But someone actually posted a picture of his own handwritten binding contract and made him have to give out his lottery winnings.
But see, that is also another thing. That's not fucking true. Nothing you see on the internet is true. Just because somebody types something in his computer and prints it out and signs it doesn't mean that it's a legally binding contract. But then people in droves will share it, you know. It's like when they say that Mark Zuckerberg's giving out his millions.
Oh yeah.
Or you could get a free $250 Best Buy, you know, like.
Oh, a big one was Floyd Mayweather and 50 Cent are giving out $1 million if you like their pages. Mayweather CEO, 50 Cent CEO, and like do something else or whatever.
Yeah, see, but that, you know what? That probably was somewhere along the line, like from their camp, knowing that they would never have to pay out on that because all of it's bullshit.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, they got those fucking
They got
things
mad
anyway.
likes on their pages. Yeah.
But you're right. I totally forgot about that. But that you're right. I can tell you how many people. Now, look, I think I have.
What, the math thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have like, I don't know how many friends on Facebook I have. Let's just say 600, right? It's not big by any means. Kids who are like 10 now have like 25,000 friends, you know? I'm an older dude and whatever. I don't care about having friends on Facebook. But I couldn't tell you the amount of times I saw that reposted. And it was like, how many? And most people, like, I would consider that I'm friends with on Facebook have to be like someone. I don't know. Like, I didn't think I was friends with any retards or whatever. but if like anybody who got past second grade would do that math, right? So I guess what we're talking about, if you don't know, is that somebody put a post on Facebook saying that the jackpot was going to be what,
1.3 billion.
$1.3 billion, and that there's
it was 300 million people in America, and then everybody gets 4.3 million
dollars, and then it says and solve poverty.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, poverty solved.
Right, yeah, and then people just saw that, didn't think for even a second that would never be a possibility because it just would never, even if you didn't know how to do the math. And then just start hitting repost on it.
Oh, you're just saying that just the fact of it in general would never happen? I mean, obviously.
Yeah,
Right.
That's not the way the lottery works. The lottery isn't charity. The lottery's there so that they can make money.
Right.
Right. So there would never be.
I thought that was just more of just like a what if type of thing. Not like it would actually happen.
No. I know,
but
even that alone would never happen because it would never, because if that was the case, then you would be able to buy mathematically you'd be able to buy enough tickets that you would be secure your way into winning the lottery or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I know what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there would never be like that much money out there that everybody in the world could get $4.3 million.
Yeah, it would have, the lottery would have to be like 1.3 trillion.
Right, or whatever.
For everyone to get $4.3 million.
And also the worst, and I'm not a capitalist, and I'm not by any means. I probably lean more towards socialism, even though that sounds bad. But I'm going to say that the worst thing in the world, even if it was possible that you could possibly do, would give everybody in the United States $4.3 million. Do you know how many people would just die that day?
Yeah,
including
me.
Yeah, right, including you. Oh, speaking of, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but one of your, I'm going to just use this term. I don't know if it's true or not, and I don't know but I'm going to say drug buddies. Let's just say somebody who runs in some of the circles that you may still or have run in, was in the same room as somebody I know and brought your name up. And the person I know in that room said, "Hey, yeah, I heard that he's." I guess they basically said, like, I listened to his podcast, and it sounds like he's doing better, or whatever. And that guy said, "Oh, that's all." Basically, just said that's all an act, and he makes shit up. And
what, that I don't do drugs?
That he just basically that you're not any better, and that you're still like hardcore into everything. And you're
is it someone that I know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything on the thing or whatever. Well, and look, I'm not even asking you to deny or not that statement. I'm just letting you know that it happened. But when I got told this story, it made me feel like I was like, okay, so now who's lying, right?
Yeah, but where do I ever say that I'm clean? Is what I want to know.
You don't say that you're fully clean, but you do say that you've been getting better. You've been
I'm trying. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And from what I see when I sit with you in this studio, it does seem that you're getting better.
Yeah.
But from what this guy was saying was like that's not true. You know, like
okay.
is the information that I got.
Well, I can just say that I can't hold that much water because I really don't hang out with dudes, you know? I can't remember the last dude that I just hung out with, you know, besides like you guys. You guys are the only times I hang out with guys, you know?
Right.
Other than that, I just hang out with girls.
No, I get that. What I'm saying is when that happened, I was like, okay, like who's lying then, you know, like, and then I thought to myself, why does every heroin addict have to fucking lie all the time? Why is that a thing? Why is that a fucking thing? Why, if you are addicted to any opiate, you become a liar? You may not become a thief, even though most of them do.
Well, I was thinking it revolves around thievery,
but
right?
It doesn't, because most of the time the lies are just acting like you're not fucked up, or like acting like you're doing something else when you're really just getting high, or like blaming, because you've even done this to me before, like back when you were worse and I couldn't even talk to you and everything. Like you would say, like, I would say that somebody told me about you, like third party was saying, like, oh, you know, like Richie's all fucked up, and then you would say, well, he's all fucked up, so he doesn't even know. You know what I mean? Like, it's always the blame game with I don't want to say you guys, because
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know,
because a lot of people don't want to admit that they get fucked up.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But so like,
I mean, I can't think of anyone that doesn't know that about me. You know what I mean? So I got nothing to hide.
I just don't know what would bring what would make somebody, and it's not like this person was hanging out with this other person. They happened to be in the same public place. This guy heard your name come up, and then said, like, oh, you know, like he's actually getting a little bit better. And the other guy was like, nope, that's all bullshit. He's not getting better. You know, like, why even say that? I don't know. I don't know. I didn't mean to put you on the spot with that.
Well,
but
people like to talk shit. I mean, that's obvious.
But you would say that you're getting better, right? People who listen to the show want to know that you're...
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I know that if I compare myself today to myself, you know, a year ago or 6 months ago,
or even 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Because there were days that you came into this room and were eyes slammed shut and were and all that stuff.
Yeah, there were.
And that has not happened in at least 2 months, if not more.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. And again, my whole thing on this is always from the beginning is to just kind of stay out of it and kind of just be Switzerland, you know, and non-biased in the whole situation. So I don't know. I mean, you could easily just be making sure that you're in good shape for 2 hours a week, and then the rest of the time that I don't see you, you could just be a fucking mess. I don't know that. And I'm not asking you if you are or anything like that. But you know, like I said, I bring it up because that is part of this podcast. It's always going to be part of this podcast. And to the day that you walk in here and you're like, I'm clean, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna be a part of that part of the podcast. So I don't know.
Like there was like a day or two ago that I was actually like really, really depressed. It's like, why can't I just shut it off like a switch? You know what I mean? But it's fucking hard.
Well, nobody could shut it off like a switch.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, you sit there and you think about all the good things that would come of it if it was just over. You know, why isn't that enough to just stop? You know what I mean?
And can I ask you, like, so you're obviously in the part of this where you want to get out of it. You have the will, like you said, you just sat there and you thought, like, why can't this be over? Yeah. If you were like still into enjoying it as much as you did in the beginning, you probably wouldn't be thinking those thoughts, right? But is it something that on some sort of level that you enjoy, or is it really just keeping the sickness away? And
it's more just like, you know, it keeps the sickness away, but that's not really, you know, the physical sickness thing is something that I could probably eat for a couple of days just to get better. But what it takes away is, like, you know, any form of depression or, you know, shitty feelings you have. You know what I mean? That's what goes away instantly.
Yeah,
you know?
it numbs you out, right?
I mean, you don't get numb. You just...
Well, I'm talking about emotions and feeling wise.
Consider it numb.
Right.
You know, because, I mean, it's not like you lose all emotions completely. It's just anything that's negative. You know, it wipes away that negative feeling. Right. So you won't feel depressed and you won't feel like upset. No, you won't be like hard on yourself, you know.
But would you agree that afterwards, like when you're sober again, like, and going through the trying to get out of it or whatever, wouldn't those emotions be there, but even like tenfold?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're making them subside for a little bit just to really kind of feel them more intensely later.
Yeah.
Because I know that, you know, like I've been through that, not on the level that you're in. But that has happened with things in my life, you know, where you escape from it knowing that you're going to have to meet it full on a bunch harder than you would if you were just to kind of follow it all the way through, you know? So what stops you from, and again, I'm not judging you here.
Okay.
You know that.
Yeah.
But what stops you from just
going through it?
Just going through it, yeah. Mr. Robot style, strap yourself to the fucking bed and sweat it out.
I mean, I guess it's just knowing that, you know, for a little while I can get rid of all those shitty feelings and then just, you know, worry about it tomorrow.
So there's something inside of you that still wants it, is basically
Yeah,
what
I
that
guess
is.
so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I mean, not want it like, I don't want it to be a part of my life, but, you know, there's a part of me that wants it just for that moment.
That escape, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I mean, and I think anybody at home listening to this can understand that. Again, maybe not on that level, you know, because people hear like, let's say heroin and they're like,
Yeah.
you know, but like, look, you know, I've seen all your asses sleeping at a bar or doing coke in the fucking bathroom or all those things. And let's not act like one's any worse than another,
Right.
you know? So on that level, it is all any kind of getting fucked up, even smoking weed, which I think is as harmless as, you know, it's just nature or whatever. But even that's like some sort of escapism. And even that you might be escaping some things that might come back harder afterwards and all that stuff. Although if you're me, they're just there even harder while you're high. You start freaking
Yeah,
out.
no, I hear that all the time.
But, so like I think that it is a thing that a lot of people experience, you know, so I don't know. So look, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but it's something that we haven't talked about in a while.
Yeah,
you know
no,
what I mean?
I could talk about this whenever. I mean, as far as getting some outsider, I'm going to say probably a dirtbag's point of view on anything they think they know about me.
Right.
You know, it's just hilarious in a way because
Right.
I don't share my business besides the podcast with
Right.
anyone. You know, especially any random guy that thinks they know anything about me.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it was a weird thing to hear because I guess of the podcast. You know, we have a decent amount of listeners now who are kind of slowly going through this journey with you, even though we don't talk about it every episode, because we just don't. You know, this isn't the drug podcast, but it is a big part of this podcast.
Like, why would I waste my time talking about it at all? I would totally steer away from the topic completely.
Right.
You know, I'd just be like, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
You know, it's no one's business. You know what I mean?
But everybody that I talk to, even people I don't know who email about the podcast or whatever, or friends of ours who listen to the podcast, or people I haven't seen in a while that I might bump into someplace that either have listened to the podcast or have heard about it, or at least heard about, you know, you or whatever, have all said to me in the past month or so, like, oh, it sounds like Richie's really trying to, you know, like trying to make a comeback, like getting better, you know, like sounding better and all that stuff. And my thing is, you know, I always say, yeah, that's, you know, from what I see, that's what is happening. I don't have all the information, but from what I see, that is what's happening. So this person saying that was like the first person saying like, yeah, no, that shit's true, you know, and it was just like, oh, okay, well, and then in my mind, and forgive me for this, but having dealt with you before and dealt with other people in our lives that were going through the same thing, I always have to have like a suspicion in the back of my head of who's telling the truth, you know?
Yeah,
and it has nothing to do with my love for you or my trust for you or anything like
it's
that.
just normal.
Yeah,
how it
right.
is,
So
yeah.
so it makes me feel like, okay, well, you know, so like all these, you could sit here and say all these, you know, I'm doing this. You sound better, you look better, all that stuff. All these people come up to me and say, hey, Richie sounds like he's doing better. Like, you know, we're really pulling for him and all that stuff. And then one other, and I'm going to guess, I pretty much know 100%, another addict says, yeah, that's all bullshit. I know the real deal because I'm an addict and he's not like that. And then all of a sudden you're like me as a friend. And now I'm talking as a friend, which I don't normally do on the podcast. You know, made me kind of like sink back into my chair and be like, ah, man, really? Like, you know, like, but when I guessed logically, I should probably be like, well, that guy's probably a liar too, but you know, but you never know. And that was my whole thing is why does everybody on dope lie all the time?
Well, I would think it's to not let people know that they're on drugs. You know what I mean? People, you know, it's not easy for me to sit here and admit the fact that I do drugs. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not easy at all.
Right.
But
I commend you for doing it.
I want to talk about it, you know. And the only reason, like, if I was in a shittier state than I was in the past, I wouldn't want to talk about it. You know, the only reason why I want to talk about it is because I do feel that I've improved a lot. So it makes it easier for me to talk about it.
Well, that's good.
You know.
So are you saying that, like, let's say that there's a point in the future, because we plan on doing this podcast for a long time. Let's say there's a point in the future where like you totally slip, and that would be understandable. I mean, the road to sobriety as anybody who has tried it before knows, is a long road with a lot of detours and a lot of U-turns and all that stuff. So let's just say in the future, 2 months from now, you fall into like a really bad, like a couple steps back and you're really bad. At that point, is that something that like you wouldn't want to discuss? Because I feel like if it's somebody who's publicly trying to get sober, I feel like that is something that you probably want to discuss. Yeah.
I mean, not really. I guess what good would come of me discussing that? That's what I feel. I feel like more good comes out of when I talk about how much better I'm doing, because that makes me want to stay on that road. If I talk about, oh man, I just been getting real fucked up lately, I feel like that just kind of puts you in a place where it's like, oh well, this is just gonna keep on happening, so fuck it.
Well, but if it comes from the place of like, I know I'm fucking up again and I don't want this to happen,
Well, the whole thing is a fuck up. You know what I mean? The whole entire thing is just fucked up, But, I mean, I don't plan on that ever really happening, so.
Well, no, that's good, and I hope it doesn't happen. I'm just asking these questions because it's something, that might happen, that we might have to go through. And as your, let's just say for the sake of this podcast, business partner, I'm taking my friendship out of this. Like, we have a little bit of a different relationship once these mics are off.
Yeah.
And then that Devin will normally be like, dude, you're a fucking asshole or whatever. And I'll tell you, but we've made a point to, on the air, have a non-biased discussion about something that a ton of people in America right now are going through, and that's the whole point. And I want to continue to have that open discussion, so when I ask you these questions, it's really on the basis of that,
Yeah.
Of course, personally, I want to see you be clean and back to the Richie that I used to know and run with and all that shit. But also it's an important thing to talk about, because so many people out there who probably aren't fucking admitting it, just like everybody does,
Yeah.
It's weird with that specific drug. Like that, for some reason, is the shameful one.
Yeah.
Like people will love to tell you that they just snapped rails in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And people love to tell you that they just smoked a blunt. People love to tell you that they just stopped acid. But no one ever really loves to tell you that they just shot heroin.
Yeah.
And it's but the numbers show, especially in this area that we're in, that it's a fucking huge thing.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. Huge problem. And usually with drug epidemics, it's another drug that comes along to save you from it. Like, let's say the late 70s heroin epidemic, we had coke and crack come out, and all the people that were doing dope were like, fucking, hey, crack is better.
Right.
Moved on to crack, and that's what got, even though it wasn't a positive thing that got us out of the heroin epidemic, there was another drug.
It just got replaced by something else,
Yeah.
and then crack turned into methamphetamine. And
Yeah,
right.
so what the hell how's this one going to end? What drugs?
Well, but just the fact that it's bad, and we all know what sparked this latest heroin epidemic is the fucking doctors pushing those shitty pills on everybody just so they can fucking make money. I mean,
and they're never going to stop doing that.
If anybody should be locked up in fucking jail, it's those fucking dudes. But yeah, you're right. I mean, what is going to come after this? I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Look, the war on drugs is never been a winning thing. There's always going to be drugs, and to talk on a social level. I mean, I could, again, this is something I don't want to get into. We're coming to the end of the show, but the way that America even handles drug addiction and drug addicts and all that stuff is completely wrong. That needs to change. It's something that's always going to be around, and so therefore, people like you who go on a podcast and talk about their struggles with it I think is a very important thing, because there's no reason that you should ever look down on anybody for some sort of substance abuse or like addiction. People make mistakes. People party too hard. People get into their fucking shit. If maybe you're like totally cool with it and you're robbing and stealing and being a complete scumbag, that's one thing. But if you're sitting here as a regular guy, an intelligent, funny human being that a lot of people care about, saying, I got into this bullshit and I'm trying as hard as I can to work my way out of it and I want to talk about it, I think that's a dialogue that a lot of people have to have. You know what I mean? So that's,
Well, unfortunately, that's not the, I would say that's not the mass consensus on this drug,
Right. But I've never met, and it's not like I run a fucking clinic, so I don't know tons of people, but I've known a few growing up and being around and stuff. I've never met somebody who's addicted to that specific drug that, again, wasn't ashamed of it and didn't want to get out of it. You know, you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I'm sure everybody does.
Right. So if everybody's feeling that same thing, there has to be some sort of dialogue about it. And I know that you could go in the basement of a church and you could fucking talk about it with a bunch of people. I know you could go away for 30 days to some spa resort and do that fucking thing. But on a bigger level, it needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Not to on the day after David Bowie died. I don't mean to get too somber and fucking crazy, but
it's all right. I'm still working out, Lenny baby.
Oh. Yeah, when we met up this morning right before the show, I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to talk about Bowie. I know you don't care about him that much, and you're like, well, all I care about is the mayor from Ghostbusters. And then before the show, the fourth wall of this bitch is you were trying frantically to look up what movies he was in, and
he wasn't in shit,
and you found out that he was in Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2.
And that's it. Well, he was in Ace Ventura, but I can't think of what he was in Ace
I know.
Ventura.
I got to fucking look that up now.
What the fuck was he in that movie?
He was
definitely wasn't a Guado.
I don't know who he was. I don't know. Maybe he had a scene with Tone Loc someplace.
Yeah, Tone Loc took that movie.
All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awkward High Five podcast.
I'm back to looking for Lenny, baby.
Go on to Twitter and follow us there at awkwardhi5. You can email us at awkwardhigh5podcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, all that good shit. Oh, and leave a review on iTunes.
Oh, he's the doctor in the psych ward. When he's in the tutu, and he's like...
oh, yeah, the one that walks him around?
Yeah, he's
yeah.
the doctor.
Lenny, rest in peace. How old was he?
I don't know. Probably old. Like
I think he was like in his 80s.
Yeah.
So he made it.
Yeah.
The mayor makes it. Okay, anything else before we get out of here?
No, that's it.
All right.
R.I.P. Lenny, baby.
And we'll see you guys in a few days.
My eyes were red when you were here, but now you're not and they're clear, my dear. Hey lover, where did you go? I'm not high and I'm not low. If I knew a breakup, man, I can't break you up and taste you again. With love, with breath, wanna smoke you up. Even though my chest hurts, smoke you up. Get more painless, wanna smoke you up. Inhale my best and I'm out of love. With love, with breath, wanna smoke you up. Even though my chest hurts, smoke you up.
Thanks for listening to the Awkward High Five podcast. For more episodes, visit awkwardhighfive.com.